You're watching the Blockchain Interviews, hosted by Dan Weiskopf. Each episode features interviews with leading industry experts so that viewers can have a deeper understanding of today's quickly evolving blockchain marketplace.
Thrilled today to have Steve Ehrlich, CEO of Voyager Digital, on our show today. He's also the former CEO of E-Trade Professional Trading. So thank you, Steve, for being on the Blockchain Interview Series.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate talking to you. Always look forward to when you and I get to speak.
Yeah, Steve, I feel like we have known each other for decades. And in 2018, I think it was through KCSA, introduced us to this little company with $20 million in market value, right? And we had a great conversation. And today you've got 2.7 billion in market cap, millions of customers. My question to you is, you've had a long, successful career. Think through a little bit on how the pieces have come together to get to this point. Because, frankly, that probably helps you in the hiring too of people.
Oh, and yeah, we did meet. I think it was 18. It was I was pitching you on the idea, and I'm sure we never talked about it, but I'm sure you, like many others, were like, this guy's nuts. Like, what does he think he's going to be able to build? Like, there's some pretty big companies out there in this space, and he must be nuts. And I think me being somewhat nutsy anyway is what got us here. And it truly is. This is probably the most fun I've ever had in my entire career, and not just because we've gone from 20 million to almost 3 billion. It's the most fun because it's creating something new, and I've learned so much from my experience in public accounting, my experience at E-Trade and running a unit within E-Trade, which had 3,000 people at the time, to running my own broker at Lightspeed. And you learn so much from all that. And it's all the things I didn't do right in those experiences that are making this one so much more, viable and able to do what we're doing, like how you manage people, learning about personalities in a big company, how to navigate, and then the small company, how to keep people, motivated and excited in a smaller environment with lots of acquisitions. All those things have really helped get where we are today, because I always have this philosophy. I say it to our employees. We all should learn a lot more from our mistakes than we do from our successes. And I never, ever really care when someone makes a mistake, when they're trying to be creative and do something. My comment is always, just don't make the same mistake twice. And so I think that's what's made this so successful and so much fun for me, because everything I didn't do right for the last 25 years in my other job, that's what we've been able to do today and really build something exciting. And I have great partners. And I think that's great partners, great investors, great community. That all makes it a lot more fun too.
Yeah, and you've created a culture that fosters appropriate risk taking and the willingness to pivot as things change.
That's one of the things I think that I definitely learned from my time at Lightspeed. We were deep into active trading, direct access trading, focused on professional tradings. And when the market started to turn and get less active, there was a time, 2008, 7, 8, we were doing 12 billion shares a day in the market. Now that seems probably light compared to some of what we've seen lately, but that was a lot. And when it started dipping, I don't think we pivoted fast enough. And now that's one of the things here. When we saw an opportunity to pivot and get into a yield and earn, we went for it right away, rather than trying to think it through ad nauseum, really, to make those changes. And those are just the things you learn, is how to see where the business is going, analyze the morale and what your customers are thinking, and then try to figure out what they want. Because it all comes down in the end, what are customers going to buy? We just saw last night was the first game at Field of Dreams, baseball and Yankees and White Sox. And I always use that too. It's like, you don't build something hoping they come. That's how we started. And but you got to build what customers actually want.
Yeah. Yeah. And what you've done is amazing. And as as an illustration of that is the fact that your customers go back to your platform every day, what, like 7, 8, 9 times?
The data we have shows they're on the platform 8 to 12 times every single day. Now it's probably slightly less because I'm probably on 250 times a day, so I throw the average off. But it's on average about 8 to 12 times a day our customer is on the app.
Yeah, what an opportunity that is, right? Your customers are engaged. Now they may be checking the price, more than anything else,
That's
but
fine.
yeah, that's fine. Where do you see that opportunity going? Meaning, A, who are your customers? What type are they are? Are you looking also at small business? They may not be checking their accounts like that on a regular basis, but where do you see that kind of engagement, and how do you capitalize on it?
Yeah, there's a few different avenues for that. First is, the fact that they're on the app so much means when we bring the debit card, they're ready to use the debit card. They're like, okay, here's another way I can be engaged with my cryptocurrency and with Voyager. So that's definitely one way. We're also looking hard at, obviously, we've been saying this for a while. We announced, the partnership and the JV with Market Rebellion. We'll bring stock trading too to the platform with USDC as your base currency to execute the trades from. More engagement. And then when you start thinking about it, what our customers, there's other products that they want that we're on our roadmap. Our existing customers want retirement accounts. But then what we found out from talking to a lot of them, and one of the reasons for the Coinify acquisition was a lot of our customers are small to mid-sized business owners, and they feel really neglected by banks. And they're coming to us in droves now and saying, we want payments in USDC, and we want to hold some of our USDC, our cash, and our Bitcoin and build treasury on your platform because you know how to treat customers. We have great, you treat us great, and we want to expand the relationship with you. So that probably means more engagement only because those small to mid-sized business owners will have accounts with us and they'll be looking at both their accounts and always, with the small to mid-sized business, understanding their treasury position. So it's really, we think that the engagement's going to go up. We hired a data analyst, head of data, Akbar Labhani out of Uber. And we've got so many more ideas on how to bring intelligent information to consumers so that they can utilize the platform even more.
Yeah, some of them are probably in the gig economy, which we love as a firm. And so is it? I may be getting ahead of myself on this. I mean, your business model is evolving on a constant basis. I mean, could we be seeing at some point 5 years out you doing real estate transactions or mortgages or anything like that?
We expect to actually, because as people start building their crypto portfolios, we see a tremendous opportunity to execute loans, collateralized loans, lending money, credit cards, mortgages, because we really truly believe that we're still in the early stages of the crypto adoption. Consumers are on the app, they're engaged, we'll get more in there, and we're going to become their financial lifestyle app. So that's where they're going to come to do everything. And this vision actually isn't uncommon. And the first time I ever heard something about this was back in the early 2000s at E-Trade when I was there, when I heard the CEO of Christos, Katsakos actually talk about that for E-Trade. Now they got a little away from that when they bought the bank and they got into, different avenue and never finished that vision, which I think they'll probably start doing more, maybe more in the Morgan Stanley umbrella. But that's where the whole vision, like I match up a lot to what was done in the past and how we can make things better and more efficient for consumers through crypto. So we absolutely think that there's no doubt over 5 years, we'll be doing mortgages and sooner than that on collateralized loans and credit cards. No, there's no doubt. We want to be part of everybody's life and help them create wealth through the crypto and digital economy.
Cool. We can talk later offline on some ideas I have. So this is
I love ideas. You know that.
I know.
Talk because you're like, how about that? Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of our culture of our company is that this is, something new's coming, and I don't have all the answers. And boy, I say it all the time on different podcasts and interviews. We make mistakes. It's how you react from those mistakes, and people who are smarter than me coming in and saying, hey, what do you think about this? That's how we're going to get better. I don't learn a lot from just thinking I have all the answers. I learn a lot from waking up at 6 o'clock every morning, reading, speaking to smart guys like you, and you guys saying like, "Hey, have you looked at this?" And it's like, "Oh, that's interesting. Let me do some more." That's how we're going to get better. It's not from one guy sitting here saying, "Here's what we're going to do." It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, there are a lot of folks from the ETF industry, right, who've made that pivot to the blockchain, and I'm one of them, I suppose, although I'm on both sides. And I think there's certain people who are early adopters, and that's just a human nature thing. So I'm known for always talking about how structure matters, and people laugh at me about that. But so I'm gonna ask you a bunch of structure matters questions, and I love to keep this like a rapid fire as much as possible. So here they go. Okay. So how does your firm optimize the wild west of exchanges for your clients? That's the first one.
Yeah, we're connected to, geez, it's growing now, probably over 12, 13 different exchanges, market makers, custodians, all to maximize the liquidity for consumers. And it's like the old school equity smart order router. We're doing the same thing for retail consumers, and we keep to the retail consumers. We're not trying to be the institutional arm for people because of the lower, volume of lower cost per each trade. The average cost per trade, volume per trade is less for retail. So we've maximized it by, and we keep getting market makers. And if you're a market maker listening, give us a call. We always try to get more market makers into our wheel and exchanges to make sure we can get this huge, deep pool of liquidity.
Second question. Is it true that customers own the crypto, specifically Bitcoin and Ethereum, on your platform, where that's not necessarily the case on other platforms?
Yeah, they absolutely own it. They can take it off the platform anytime they want and bring it into their own personal wallets. A lot of customers want us to hold it for them, and we have everybody who brings crypto into us has a specified wallet address for them. But if you want to take it out to your own personal wallet, say you had a Trezor or a Ledger, or you were using some other app, wallet app, yeah, you could take it anytime you want. Now we have limits on withdrawals, and that's for customer safety and protection. But you could take anything off whenever you want. No questions asked.
And you're being polite. That's not the case for every platform, but it is the case for yours.
It's a differentiator.
Yeah, no. So next question. How does your firm protect customers from lost coins on your platform?
Yeah, well, it's why I think our model sets us apart from others too, is, we actually execute through multiple exchanges and market makers, liquidity providers, but our custodialship is a combination of hot, cold, some hot, obviously, so we can effectuate trades at a moment's notice. But on the cold side, we're using multiple custodians. We have like 4 or 5 custodians for all the coins because we're not comfortable keeping everything in one place. Plus, some custodians don't have certain coins while others do, but we kind of spread it around. We think and then on top of that, we think we have one of the best security teams around, led by our head of security who came over from Penn Med, Dan Costantino, ex-military. We always think that those military guys know a lot about security. And so we think we have a top-notch team on that as well.
Okay, so I'm not sure how to do this without getting hyper technical, but how do you explain the mechanics of how people get yield, we'll say on Bitcoin and Ethereum and other coins, and what might those yields be?
Yeah, so for us to generate yield, we give consumers yield on 30 odd coins, and some of the way we generate yield to give them that yield is staking. Some we lend out to big parties like public companies like Galaxy Digital or BitGo, or work with Anchorage on some of that. A lot of it is now starting to be even more collateralized on that side. But the other part of how we give yield is it's a marketing expense to us. So we look at it as a great form of marketing for us. We've got a vibrant trading business that allows us to use some of what we make there to give people yield as well, because we've seen our assets grow substantially now as the market's kind of kicked up. We've seen more, the assets grow obviously, but even through the kind of quiet time of like June, July, we saw net assets coming on the platform every day. And it's because of the yield. And we look at that yield as those 3 ways: staking, some lending, and then just marketing. And we look at the whole package as a marketing thing for us. Like, how do we get more consumers into the ecosystem?
Yeah, so I think you kind of answered the question on counterparty risk. So as a different question along the same lines, um, hypothetically, let's say I've got an account at a major brokerage firm. It's on margin. I own equities. I'm not voting my proxy, but hey, listen, it's on margin, but I've got the cash. Okay, to me, sometimes people forget that equities give you a feel of ownership of the company, but the reality is they're kind of a derivative type of security in my mind, at least a little bit. So my question is really, it's on margin. I'm not leveraged. I'm sitting on cash. Do you envision ever a situation where some of these large brokerage firms are going to have to give yield on that benefit that they are in fact receiving?
Well, look, I think it's your first point about when you're owning stock through a large broker dealer, it's always held in street name. Yes, the broker dealer goes back to you and you have a right to vote it, but your votes don't mean much when you're a few hundred shareholder on an Apple and so forth. So it doesn't really even matter. You have a right, but it's immaterial. But I do think, we both remember the time where brokers used to give you money on your free credit and your free cash sitting in the account. And it's kind of interesting because I think the time, and we're going to change this. This is part of what we're working on with our stock platform with John and Pete and Jarian, is getting yield for consumers on the cash side when they're sitting with cash. In our instance, it's going to be USDC coin, because today the brokers are using that cash to fund those margin balances. So they're making 6, 7, 8% on your cash. Now that just doesn't seem right. It's like banks, giving you 0% and they're lending it out and making 8 to 10%. It's the brokers do the exact same thing. And so we think that model is going to change. And that's why long-term decentralized finance, even in the stock world, is going to happen, because when you're sitting with cash, it's your cash. If you want to use it and lend it to somebody, that's your prerogative. But when the brokers do it today, it kind of flies under the radar because nobody really understands the inner workings of how brokers work. You have to be in the business and understand it. But there was a time brokers used to pay 3, 4, 5% on cash. Now it's obviously zero. So yes, I think we're going to get to that point. We're going to help make that change.
Well, I mean, when you've got a situation, as an example, with GameStop or AMC, where there's a short squeeze, and people don't realize this, but that loan value is huge. And thank you, Mr. Broker, for keeping the yield from me.
Yeah, and as you and I were talking about earlier before we jumped on, is that the brokers are taking that GameStop stock, they're lending it out at these neg rates, and that's what they call it, neg rates, and they're enormous, and they're pocketing all that money. They're not giving it back to the consumer. It's the consumer's stock. It's like, it's your stock. If you want it to be lent out, you should be making something on it. That's got to change too. And I think, there's real money to be made in the sharing if you decide to have your stock loaned out. Now, if you're smart, you can go to your brokers and you can request and say, I do not want my stock lent out. And you can say, if I want my stock to be lent, if you're going to lend my stock, I want to make something on it, especially in a cash account. And I do that all the time in my stock trading. Like, do not lend my stock out. Especially, my own stock in Voyager, like, you're not lending that stock out. Trust me, I've seen that happen too. But it's like, you're not lending my stock out, because no one realizes once it's in the possession, even fully paid stock today, brokers will lend that out. So because of all the customer agreements, and I implore everybody to read the customer agreements at some of the biggest online brokers, that they'll lend it out, and it's your stock. And that's what the whole thing about crypto, having lived in this world for 27 years now, is that's why I get so excited about where we're going, because it's power back to the people. That's what scares the heck out of the big companies and the government. It's the power back to the people.
Yeah, by the way, even if you're not on margin, even if it's straight cash, right? That's the amazing part.
Yes, go look at your customer agreements. If you're at some of the largest corresponding clearing firms, or that other company that went public not that long ago.
No, we won't.
So
We won't go to naming anybody. So, one of the other things that was frankly genius about what you've done is creating the Voyager coin, right? Walk me through how that's evolved, because it's made a lot of people, frankly, very wealthy, which is wonderful, right?
yeah, we're excited by that token. It's really core to everything we do. And we talk about how as a company we work for four constituencies: investors, token holders, employees, and customers. And customers may or may not hold the token. They may or may not hold the stock. That's okay. Again, their prerogative, their money, they can do what they want with it. Our job is just to help them effectuate that. But the token itself has helped us build such a diehard community of people that love our platform, love the community. We have a rewards program that launches September 1st that gives people a lot of rewards for holding the token, different levels, very similar to airline miles or hotel points or coffee shop points.
Mhm.
You're going to get all these extra benefits with that. Maybe some even gear coming with that at some point in time. So it's really built this community, and this community, it took a long time. Like when we bought this Ethos company, which is our protocol for deposits withdrawals in October 19. That's when we got the token. Token was at like 3 or 4 cents and didn't really have a deep community aspect to it. It took time to build that up. And now it's so impactful. You go to social media, especially Twitter, and I think they hold all sorts of other Discord channels and so forth, that the Telegram, that they help us grow our business. And not only do they help us grow our business through all the organic referrals that get our way, but they tell us when we're doing something wrong, or they give us ideas because they're so in tune with what's going on in other customer sentiment. It's been great for the business. It's been and fortunately for those who hold the token's been up quite a bit lately. And I think as we keep building more and more consumers on it and more product, there's a lot of life in that token.
But it's created further alignment with your
Yep.
customers. It's also lowered your marketing cost, right? Because in certain cases, maybe you've used the token to incentivize somebody to help you market, right? And on a go forward basis, it's even becoming more liquid, so becoming potentially more interesting.
It's all three of those, right? I think we do use it as a marketing. That's the main purpose of the token. And we have this swap that'll be finished by a week from today. And that gives us even more tokens to use as marketing tools for consumers. So we're really excited by that. It's 40 million tokens after the swap that we get to use to incentivize consumers again to use the platform, make intros, make referrals. But that community does and has built such a loyal following around it. It's made things, easier for us to actually continue to grow. And we're excited by what we think that can happen from that too. And you're right, the liquidity for consumers is, imagine if and I think we'll get there. Imagine if I have like 1.5 million Marriott points. Imagine if your Marriott points are actually able to be turned into real cash, or you could trade it to a friend who can use those points to get the hotel room or a vacation. They become more valuable and you build loyalty to it. So I think over time, airlines, hotels, coffee shops will tokenize their rewards programs because it helps build that community. And I think that's the number one thing that I look at when I hear all the stuff going on in the government and all that. It's like, I'm not sure the government understands where cryptocurrency has taken community and people bonding together for a common purpose. And that's what's happening. And it's happening right in front of all our eyes. And I know what's happening on Voyager because, the rewards program and everything we have is really showing it front and center.
I've got some ideas for you on that. We'll take that offline as well. So a hard question that I want to throw at you, and it's awkward a little bit. Customer support is something that you are so focused on, and I think you've made it clear that you want to be the number one platform in terms of customer support. Where do you stand in terms of actually having an 800 number?
So it is one of our key things we're focusing on. Before I got on with you, I was with my CTO, with Dan, and with our head of service, Shannon, and going through stuff because we're getting closer and closer to improving. We're improving every day, but getting to where we'll have live chats and phone-based service. There's no doubt by the end of the year we will have it. We'll have VIP logs based upon, your level of assets, your level of token holding, level of volume you do, and it's building it all together to make sure that we can serve the customers, appropriately, and make sure we handle that all right. So we're working on all those channels. By the end of the year, we think we'll be a well-oiled machine, but you're going to see significant improvements over the next 4 to 6 weeks, if you haven't already. And I think the service has actually gotten quite much better over the last 4 to 6 weeks. It's a point of emphasis for us, and you'll see even more strides made in the next 4 to 6.
Thanks, Steve. And by the way, that's not to suggest that anybody complained. It was more, no, I mean, you're dealing with people's money, right?
I expect it. It's part of the business.
Yeah,
It's part of the
yeah.
business. Yeah.
So you actually got really lucky, maybe smart on attracting a lot of athletes to be involved with your platform. Nice jacket, by the way. Um, uh, I guess my question is twofold. One, how did that become an emphasis for you? And do you know any actors are going to be involved as well?
Ooh, how it got involved is I'm a huge sports fan. Grew up my whole life in New York, so I'm a diehard New York sports fan. Uh, but just overall love sports. So I had the opportunity to meet a couple. The first one actually was I got introduced to Matt Barkley. And I know Matt's been on your
Yeah,
think tank on Fridays. Yeah, I mean, Matt's a great guy. He just signed with the Tennessee Titans. So I'm
good.
like, I'm coming down to visit you, man, in Nashville, because I love Nashville. And, got introduced to him early 18. And so Matt and I just got on the phone and we spoke for like 3 hours, just crypto. And one of my favorite people because he's so knowledgeable there. After that, we got introduced to Stephen Piscotty of the A's. Same thing. Brilliant guy, plays outfield for the A's, Stanford grad, really, really smart guy. And so we just started expanding that. And so now we have, quite a bit more. We will have more in the near future. We'll have some musicians, we'll have some actors, more professional athletes, and we have tons of them that are using our platform today. Obviously, from privacy, I can't say, but you can go look who's following us on Twitter, and you can see that. And following Voyager on Twitter, there's so many that are using our platform, and they have, I speak to them quite often. They have my email, my text, and we just exchange ideas. Like, how can we get more into locker rooms and talk to people about that as well? Because it's an important aspect. Those guys are influencers, so they help the business. But at the same time, they're really curious about how they can use it and how it's going to help their lives. So it's exciting. It's fun. I'm a big sports fan, so and love love watching movies, love listening to bands. So it's exciting for me to meet these people. But what I've also found out is they're all really smart,
Mm,
and I'm learning from them because they're taking a different look at it from me, and really enjoy almost all those conversations.
yeah. So we're now coming to the mostly the end of the show. So I always have wild card questions. So looking out like 5 years from now, right? What is the one thing that investors in the blockchain are not paying attention to today?
Yeah, I think what I look at, I think the blockchain itself will, and I know there's still doubts about it, but it will change the entire financial service system. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind from what I see. Whether it's now mortgages recorded on it, and there's some pretty good companies out there that are doing some of that, trying to do mortgages and home equities on the blockchain. But 5 years out with blockchain, all of a sudden we're going to wake up one day. It's like the internet. We woke up one day and we went from the
Mm,
dial up, with all the squeaky noise. And all of a sudden we had an efficient internet. That's what's going to happen on the blockchain. I keep saying it's going to be, you're going to wake up one day and no one's going to tell you, but it just, things switched in the back offices and we're using the blockchain and you don't even know it. And that's what, to me, and I know what financial services are ripe for that because of simple things like clearing stock trades that are T+2, and there's fights about going to trade date +1. It's like, it should be immediate. Like, I don't see a reason why. And so one day we're all going to wake up and we're going to see the real impact of all this. And I think it's 5 years, maybe slightly longer.
So then the second wild card question is, and you can't use financial services as the answer, right? What industries are going to be most impacted by blockchain, excluding financial services?
I mean, I've been in this industry 27 years. So look, I think one really thing that should be impacted by the blockchain and is a great fintech opportunity, and it'll be my next business, and it's really morbid to think about, is if you've ever been in a position where a loved one has passed away, especially a parent or an in-law or so forth, and trying to settle estates and doing things that way, blockchain and, financial technology should help that. It's a full-time job when those things happen. And you're already depressed because of, a death, but now you're even more so because you're handling all these things and there's 15 accounts here and there's no way to kind of aggregate it. So I think from a fintech and blockchain perspective, it's not financial services. It's kind of life planning. I think we're going to change. That's where a lot of this is going to change because it's really hard to do those things. And the person that passed away is like, have fun, go enjoy that stuff, take care of it. But I think that's where I really see a lot of opportunity.
Don't be thinking about your next business. Okay. You're not going anywhere. We won't let you.
I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. I can tell you that. I love what I do. I'm like, maybe I'll just have to get someone to start that business. I mean, like I said, when we started, I love what I do. This is the most fun I've had I started work in 1987. So in 34 years, this is the most fun I've ever had. I love the people I work with. I truly enjoy speaking. A lot of people in my position don't love speaking to investors. I love speaking to investors. I love speaking to customers. I just think we have this opportunity, and you pointing them out, like, where's blockchain going, all that. We have an opportunity that's kind of once in a lifetime to make these changes. Maybe it's twice now because the first time was the internet. But so we really have, and this what makes it so much fun. I'm not going anywhere. I can see myself here for, I'm late 50s, mid 50s. I can see myself another 10 years doing this.
Okay. Well, I mean, if you want to start selling cemeteries on the blockchain, that's possible. So, Steve, thanks very much for spending the time with me. I really appreciate it. I look forward to watching your company grow and expand and pivot and execute. And your team's done a great job block and tackling for the shareholders. Thank them all for me as well.
Well, thank you. I mean, again, we get a lot of insight from investors and customers, and but guys like you have been around and give me some good insight what you're hearing and seeing, because you guys see a lot of different things. Really makes us better at what we do. So I appreciate all the insight that I get from guys like you.
Be safe. See you next time.